Today we're exploring evidences that point to God's existence while we're flying drones, and I have a special surprise to show you guys. So today I'm flying a couple of sites here for the town of Stouffville. Just like the roundabouts and the new tennis courts that they have going on. I'm flying the water tower, just as some good promo of the town before like winter strikes. I must say the winds are so strong today. It's 26 kilometers an hour with wind gusts of like 46. So it's something else. I'm also flying 6 other construction sites today. So it's gonna be fun, but it's a busy and long day. But it's one of those things, right? If you want to stay in ministry, side hustles is key. I definitely felt the wind on that one. When it comes to God's existence, it's important to know that we're talking about something metaphysical, meaning that it is beyond our scientific limitations of being able to prove its existence. Like the multiverse. You can't prove the multiverse is a thing by expecting science to demonstrate it's true. You'd rather expect deductive reasoning to make a case or an argument for it being the truth or not. Now, we would apply the same approach to God's existence, but we're building our case of deductive reasoning on scientific principles. And through that, we can say, well, science points to God's existence. And that's exactly what we're demonstrating in today's video. Because so many times I'm confronted by atheists who constantly expect me to be able to demonstrate God's existence, prove his existence, how we prove other things exist. So I ask them, well, prove to me macroevolution is true. Like, demonstrate to me right now new life arising from non-life, or demonstrate to me right now new life arising from existing life, new species being formulated that you can also observe. Quickly you'll see their face change on realizing that not everything that is true can be demonstrated by science alone. But just to pause on that, I'm approaching my next site right now.
Landing.
There we go. Just making a quick stop at the best coffee house in town. Moses, can I please have a cappuccino?
Yeah.
Moses, what's your message to the world?
My message to the world. Never underestimate the power of treating people the way that you want to be treated.
Pretty chilly. I'm not gonna lie, it's not fun. So when it comes to God's existence, we all have to answer the question, why is there something rather than nothing? You see, there's a reason why there is something here, and then the question is, well, is there something here because of nothing or because of something that brought everything here? And a crucial thing that all of this rests on is the law of causality. We can also call it the Kalam cosmological argument. Now, what that essentially states is that everything that begins to exist has a cause. Our universe began to exist, therefore the universe has a cause. Now, I can put this in a different way. Imagine I have a black eye. Now, the result of the black eye is probably someone's fist connecting with my face, right? Because it's not like nothing caused my black eye, something clearly caused it. Therefore, my black eye came into existence and it requires a cause, which was the fist punching me, and therefore my black eye requires a cause. So, alright, we can state it a different way. The computer, laptop, tablet, phone, whatever you're watching this video on, began to exist, therefore it has a cause. The cause of the phone in your hand is the manufacturer who created it. Therefore, the phone requires a cause, and the phone has a cause, which is the factory that made it. Now, every single thing in our universe that begins to exist has a cause. That's the pursuit of science, is to understand the origins of the effects that we see around us, which is the causes of those effects. Like, we know that our universe began to exist. So we would apply that same principle to the universe. Now, some people would say, well, no, why can't the universe or the Big Bang be the cause of the universe? Why do I have to infer God? Isn't that God of the gaps? Well, first of all, the universe can't cause the universe to exist because the universe didn't exist prior to its causation. So whatever actually caused the universe cannot be in the universe itself because the universe didn't exist for whatever is in the universe to cause the universe to exist. Essentially, I use this analogy a lot, but whatever caused my remote control to come into existence isn't inside the remote control. It is external from the remote control. So we apply the same principle to our universe. Now, a common argument I get is within quantum physics, particles popping in and out of existence. That clearly demonstrates that something doesn't require a cause to come into existence. Well, it's essentially a lack of understanding of what's actually going on if you say these things. Because you see, there's a vacuum that these things happen or occur in. Now, without the vacuum, those particles can't pop in and out of existence. So you see, science just doesn't know what is causing that. But you can't therefore claim that nothing is causing it. Because essentially, if it wasn't for the vacuum that they're popping in and out of, they wouldn't be able to cause themselves if they were causing themselves to pop into existence. You see, so some people would actually then say that, well, clearly if that happens, the universe can cause itself. Well, the problem is your example requires the universe's existence in order for it to actually occur in the first place. So therefore it would fail as an explanation of the cause. So let's take a look at some of the characteristics of what this cause would have to have. So even though we can't demonstrate scientifically what caused our universe, we can deduce certain characteristics for whatever caused our universe. When we look at space, time, and matter coming into existence at the Big Bang, we can clearly deduce from that whatever caused our universe is beyond space, beyond time, and beyond matter. So first of all, those three characteristics seem pretty straightforward as characteristics of the cause: spaceless, timeless, and immaterial, in order to create space, time, and matter. See, the cause can't be bound to those things because it created those things. So it can't be within those to create them. It has to be beyond them to create them. Remember our remote control analogy. So now we have timeless, spaceless, and immaterial. My drone's about to land, and we'll carry on. Check what happens when I press the return to home button. See, now that beeping sound is just meaning that the drone is bringing itself back. Now it should technically land there in the pylon. What do they call those? Pylons? So that's the first sight. Usually it takes about 10 minutes to fly a sight on automation, but then it takes, like with traffic and all that, it's almost an hour per sight because I have to drive between all of them. It's wrapping up the first sight. We're going to the second one where we will continue to talk about the causation of our universe. So a lot of times when dealing with the first premise, everything that begins to exist has a cause, people usually ask, well, then what created God? And usually when they say that, it's almost like a gotcha moment. You see, the problem with that question is it assumes God began to exist. It assumes God is not infinite. It assumes God had a beginning. You see, because if God had a beginning, he wouldn't be the eternal, uncaused first cause. You see, when you have cause and effect, like this began to exist and this caused it, but this began to exist because this caused it, you can't have an infinite amount of causes, otherwise you deal with something called infinite regress, where the question arises, well, why did today even happen if there was an infinite amount of days before today? Because if there were an infinite amount of days before today, today shouldn't have had even come in the first place. You see, so that's what we refer to with infinite regress. But because we know the universe has an age, the universe has a beginning, it means there's a finite period of time that has occurred since the beginning up until now. With cause and effect, there has to be an uncaused first cause. Meaning uncaused, meaning that had eternally existed beyond all the things that impose limitations on us right now, which is our universe. So when you hear the question, what caused God? just know that it is wrongful assumptions on who and what God is. Because if God had a beginning, he wouldn't be God. It would just simply imply that something else caused God to exist. And, well, what caused that? And then what caused that? And then you get infinite regress. Well, no. God being outside space, time, and matter makes him infinite. So now that we've concluded the first premise to be true, everything that begins to exist has a cause, we move on to the second premise. The universe began to exist. Well, why do we think the universe began to exist? Well, first of all, the universe has an age, which means it has a beginning. Second of all, Albert Einstein changed most scientists' mind from an infinite universe to a finite universe with general relativity. Then we also have the second law of thermodynamics, energy transferring from one form to the other. Now, when we look at the expanding universe, we know that the universe will eventually have a heat death where all energy will be unusable for us to generate anything. And also with the expansion of the universe, energy is becoming thinner and thinner and thinner, and it won't be able to necessarily contract itself back into multiple Big Bangs. I know some people believe in that. And thanks to Hubble, we see the universe expanding. My drone was heading straight for the crane and I almost lost it. Oh boy, that was so close. It was ridiculous. I was like, I'm losing it. So after establishing premise 1 to be true, we go to premise 2. The universe began to exist. Well, what proof do we have of that? Well, first of all, the universe has an age, which implies a beginning. We also see the universe is expanding, which means in reverse, it would come to a singular point. We see that science confirms the universe has a beginning, which was supported by Einstein's general relativity. We also know the Big Bang occurred because we discovered the radiation of the Big Bang. And then philosophically speaking, we have the philosophical problem of infinite regress. If the universe was eternal, there would have been an infinite amount of days leading up till today, which means today should have never had occurred in the first place, because there would be an infinite amount of yesterdays before today. So therefore we can conclude that, well, the universe had a beginning because there's too many problems opposing the alternative of an eternal universe. Well, then you get some people that say, well, what about the multiverse? Well, first of all, there's no way to scientifically demonstrate the multiverse. Essentially, it's a whole bunch of parallel universes that are occurring at the same time. Multiple universes. The other thing is the multiverse does not answer the problem of infinite regress because it doesn't explain an uncaused first cause. There should be an infinite amount of universes prior to ours causation for it to even be remotely true. The multiverse also does not account for a personal property that can decide to create something like our universe. There's also no evidence for multiple universes. Again, we have the same dilemma where both of us have to bring forward a deductive, reasoned approach to why we think it to be true, but a multiversal theory does not make any sense logically speaking, because there's too many problems that oppose it. And you know what, even if the multiverse were proven to be true, it does not replace the necessity of the uncaused first cause. The question still needs to be addressed, well, what caused the multiple universes? So listen to this quote by a believer of the multiverse, agnostic cosmologist Alexander Vilenkin. With the proof now in place, cosmologists can no longer hide behind the possibility of a past eternal universe. There is now no escape. They have to face the problem of a cosmic beginning. Now let's move on to premise 3. Last side of the day. Here goes. I just stopped because I saw, hopefully no one crashes into me, but these great fall colors. So I thought, well, let me grab them since I got my camera. Now that, ladies and gentlemen, is the beautiful fall colors of Canada. on my way to get some Dairy Queen, and then we will discuss the last premise and what to do when someone asks you to prove God exists. Can I just say, this thing's huge! So the final premise is that the universe has a cause or a beginner. So when you talk about the characteristics of what this cause can be and can have, that's where deductive reasoning comes in. You see, if space-time and matter came into existence at the Big Bang, we can therefore conclude that the cause of the Big Bang is timeless, spaceless, and immaterial. Well, then the cause also has to be personal, with an intelligent mind able to decide to cause anything, because an impersonal thing like a rock cannot decide or choose to cause anything. We also know that the cause has to be extremely powerful in order to create all the matter and energy in our universe. Another add-on to the mind of our causer, or the beginner of our universe, is to be extremely intelligent because of the complexity and design we see in our universe. It clearly demonstrates it comes from a mind. The final characteristic we can equate to the causer of our universe is being objectively morally good. Because you see, when we look at morality, an objective moral standard of goodness beyond ourselves has to exist. You see, all of us have this intrinsic knowledge of what is morally good and bad. Like hurting a 2-year-old is morally bad. And that's something that subjective opinions can't change. We all have this sense of moral goodness instilled in us, which Christians would call the Holy Spirit, or the moral law that's written on our hearts. And yet we cannot answer the question why good or being good is good in the first place, right? So that's why it points to an objective standard of moral goodness. So you see, when we look at the characteristics of the uncaused first cause, being timeless, spaceless, immaterial, extremely powerful, intelligent, personal, and morally good, we also see the God of the Bible meets these criteria. Not that he has to, but he meets these criteria with being timeless, spaceless, immaterial, extremely powerful, personal, intelligent, and morally good. Now, it doesn't mean therefore Christianity is true. That's a different conversation. But this conversation is demonstrating that God exists by using scientific methods. You see, it requires more faith to think that nothing caused everything than something that caused everything. So to wrap up this video, what do we do when someone asks us to prove that God exists? Well, step number 1, clarify what they mean by proof. What do you mean? What criteria should it meet according to you to therefore mean it's true or not? Because if they say, well, demonstrate scientifically to me, it means they don't understand how science works, because science is bound to the natural universe. Therefore, it can't prove something that is beyond that universe. And then secondly, clarify that deductive reasoning can bring us to truths, even though we can't demonstrate it scientifically, by using things like macroevolution. If they believe macroevolution is true, that uses the deductive reasoning. Therefore, you're coming to a conclusion that deductive reasoning is a valid method of making a case for truth. Once you guys agree on that, then you present the case for God's existence, the Kalam cosmological argument. Because the first step would probably be taking an atheist to a level of agnosticism, saying, all right, sure, it makes sense why there can be something rather than nothing. After that conversation, start on intelligent design, morality, are miracles possible, did Jesus exist historically, etc., etc. But step 1 is, can God exist? Is it reasonable to believe he does exist? You got this.